Baros.
Him.
Okay. All right. Should I introduce us?
Yeah, sure.
Welcome, everyone, to yet another episode of the Global Exclusive Podcast, now on the new and improved time with the new and improved cast. Is that mean to Muspel? Is that?
Oh, a little.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you
Yeah,
know what? Muspel is a little
mm,
mean to everyone else. I think it's fine.
that's fair. We'll see how long this time lasts, or whether daylight savings is immediately gonna swoop in and screw it up again.
Yeah, it's only 2 weeks, and then we're gonna get to test a new time. You're gonna get to get up an hour sooner, and I'm gonna get to stay up an hour later. See if that works.
Yeah, we'll try it.
Okay, so this is a week people have been looking forward to, right? Or I mean, I feel
Um,
like
kind of.
edgelords. I mean, edgelords in general have a fan following, right? Like you're looking at Sephiroth, Dark Rain. I want to say Squall, but I really don't think he has a fan following. Although I guess Cloud is a bit of an edgelord too, right?
Yeah, I guess I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe a little.
All right, so yeah, so what's actually starting now, as I understand it, and Dream, please help correct me here, but this is kind of an event that JP had for their anniversary, and it's a alternate universe type of deal. So it's a story that's going to play out over the coming weeks,
Mm,
right?
Yeah. It's like four events or something that will last a while,
Yeah.
and it
So quite
has
interesting,
the subject.
and this is
I
the
I
first.
don't. Yeah, I don't think the actual. I'm not sure if the whole story is in an alternate universe, or I think just these characters for the event have like come from an alternate universe into the one we know.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but I haven't had a chance to actually watch the scenes yet.
So I'm a bit excited. Looks good so far. Like the little I've seen so far looks really good. And the first unit out that we want to discuss is actually Dark Rain.
Yes,
Looks
he's
amazing.
the poster boy. You just like that bare chest, don't you?
Yes, I mean yes, yes, that's no secret. But
How
I
did I know?
also think like I'm a sucker for the edgelord design. I really am. Like I really am. Have you seen the CGLB of this unit?
Yeah, I haven't. It's
I It looks badass. It looks badass. It looks so badass that once the CG LB is over, you kind of see Dark Rain's normal LB animation. He summons a city just to slice it in half. Reminds me of Sephiroth, who summons the Shinra Tower just to slice it in a million pieces. I like that. I like that.
that's the feather. I just like looking at a sprite how he has like a full big cape and then also a smaller waist cape.
Of course, you need I'm gonna say wait, is that a waist? That's more a skirt though, like an open skirt, waist cape.
Waist. Yeah,
I feel like this has a name, we just don't know it.
probably.
This is like a
Someone
thing.
can educate us in the comments.
Yeah, because hey, hold on. Like, wouldn't classical wedding dresses have something like this, right? Or no, that goes from the head, right?
Yeah. If it's a dress, it's different. But
Okay. Okay. Anyway, he's a mage. All right.
mm,
Mage Rain. That's so weird.
and we all know that the game loves its mages.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the other drawback to this unit is, well, I'm not gonna say drawback. So this is actually a good unit, but let's talk about the bad parts first. It's also an SLB unit.
Yeah. Like he's strong, but yeah, at the end of the day, you can't escape that SLB mage. But no,
So,
he still manages to be good.
yeah, have you done any calcs for him yet?
Yeah. Um, Only loosely. Like he pretty much kind of matches our current top tier, especially because in a surprise twist, we actually got significant global exclusive buffs for once.
Hmm. Yeah,
Because
like he actually got 2,000 more static magic compared to
yeah,
JP.
because like
That's
JP,
significant.
his STMR has 500 static magic that doesn't stack. GL has 1250 static magic that does stack. So they really
Exactly.
want you to use two of that. So hope you weren't just thinking of getting one copy and then like buying and
Yeah.
dungeoning the rest of the shards.
But before everyone starts summoning just because they heard these first 5 minutes, one thing I want to say is I think wisely said by Sinzar, he said like this is one of those units that you either go all in and get the EX3 or you don't. Because
Mm,
that's I mean I want to say that's generally the problem with SLB, right? Because like most SLBs you would want at EX3 because everything else is
mm,
just a hassle.
yeah.
For every one less EX level, not only does it take longer until you get your first burst off, it obviously takes longer until you get your next burst off as well.
Mm. For
So really,
content that you burst more than once at least. But
yeah,
like I would say his like that was definitely true before when the main draw was his card at EX3 because it's the best card in the game for basically any mage.
right.
Uh, Yeah, because 500 static magic for anyone with the mage roll plus
Yeah.
80% magic, 100 LB damage, and like a base 130 magic.
Yeah, so
Very, very good card.
absolutely mind-breakingly good. Unfortunately, there are no mages that want it because, or rather, there are no mages that we have that are good. I was talking to Sinzar about this that like our top tier list looks quite sad. Like before
Well, the,
Dark Rain. Sorry, go ahead.
well I'd say the one exception is Angela on GL.
Yeah, exactly. There's Angela, but I see Angela as an exception, and she's limited. After
Mm,
her, what we have is like the two summer girls, and then we have Tiana and Olivera. And none of those are actually that strong. Like, I mean, none of them
yeah,
are like,
yeah,
oh my
the
god, they're
current
doing great damage. But those are the strongest.
yeah, the current mage selection is a bit light. But like as we said, Dark Green is very much top tier and on par with physicals, and now with like his STMR being so impactful, he doesn't have to worry about like after the magic variance patch change, switching to TDH and being reliant on Asura Dark Fina. He can like properly self-sustain him with just double STMR instead and gear quite easily,
Yeah,
especially with those Omni killers he has 200 to every race.
yeah, so good. I
So
mean,
yeah,
but
like
it's still worth saying, like, this is a bad unit to just pull one off and then EX1 in the dungeon. Like,
yeah,
you would want at least two to get that
yeah,
extra 1250 magic.
yeah.
So yeah,
Mm,
think about it like before you pull. He's really cool looking though.
mm. But yeah, like he's pretty good. It's just that main thing of being hard locked to dark, and unlike a
Yeah,
physical unit, can't even mix elements.
exactly.
So
So
there'll be like,
that's a double penalty because well, on the last fight of DV that will never matter, but on cow fights for instance, if you were hoping to bring him, that's going to be very difficult unless the cow fight is actually weak to dark.
yep,
Otherwise, you're screwed. Because yeah,
yeah,
but
and
I guess that's it
similarly,
though. The kit is very slim. Still an
yeah,
SLB unit, so there's not much
yeah,
to say.
it's a standard alum kit of triple cast, chaining skill, one use Grandis that does most of the buffs, a bit of an extra quad cast unlock that buffs Doomsday, but you're probably not going to really use that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's kind of it's really not much more to say. Not
Mhm.
much more to say. Um, and we already talked about the card, so I guess
Terrific
you
card.
know,
I guess the one other thing is that his TMR is actually like a pretty damn nice pickup for quite a lot of mages because it's an equipable store active that you can use a couple times to get an extra 300% magic buff on top of like normal buffs for one action.
yeah.
So
The only
any like
problem is I think that Rain can dual cast it or triple cast it, so he can actually do like get the maximum stack in one turn
mm,
because you only need to use it twice, whereas other mages we need to spend 2 turns on
yeah,
it.
yeah, to get the full effect. But
Yeah,
in content where like if your turn limit is not really a concern and like you don't need to do any specific setup just before that LB anyway, it can be a pretty big power boost for some other mages. So
Absolutely. I
that
mean,
can be it can
just
be a
one
nice
cast
pickup.
of it. So it works like this. It buffs, increases magic by 200%, but the max is 300. So you get the most power of one cast anyway. So even if you can just get one cast off of it, it's still nice for mages.
Yeah.
Again, mages suck. Apart from Dark Rain, they suck. So really
Um,
the point is moot, but maybe we're going to start getting better mages. Let's
yeah.
see.
And yeah, we do have some decent ones coming up, and they will get a bit of a spike once we get the patch that actually makes variance apply to magic damage as well. That
Yeah.
hasn't been moved up yet, but
I
it's
can't
on its
wait.
way.
I
Yeah,
can't
that'll be
wait.
nice.
I still love mages as a concept in this game. I really do. I like using mages. I have throwback to using some fantastic mages in this game, like the original Terra, the original Trans Terra, and so on. Me and my penchant for Terras. But in general, like mages. So I can't wait for the return, or ish return, of the mage meta.
Mhm.
Just having good mages. I can't wait. And I would love to
Well,
get Dark Rain. I've already pulled on his banner, but no big luck yet, unfortunately.
well, speaking of returns, we next have Reagan the Return.
Reagan the Return. Weirdest name ever.
Yeah. Well, it's because almost all of these units associated with this little story basically just have this tag of the story name in their
Okay.
name for that association. I guess Dark Rain didn't need it because that's a new unique thing, but we already have Reagan,
Ray. Yeah,
obviously,
exactly. So
and
I'm gonna spoil
Ollie.
this by doing it just like Sinzar did. So this is another copy paste of the element breakers that we've
Yeah,
had lately.
this is edge but light damage and
Exactly.
demon killer instead of insect.
And not much more to say, unfortunately. Damage
Yeah,
is just like the other units, like it's not really something you're gonna use.
pretty low.
Um, and the breaks are fine, but they are, they are. If your sins are, you're gonna say they are low because you only care about 90%. But like, if you don't have any breakers, sure, it's a fine unit. Still, light support. Yeah,
Mm.
really
Yeah,
not much more to say. Shit card.
the same equipable break plus Imperial material, but only on breakers
Yeah,
as each the different Imperial.
exactly.
The STMR is something slightly unique. It's like decent attack clothes, but then for breakers only, it has like a bunch of true dual wield. That's kind of whatever. But it also has basically a Tyvus active buff of
Yeah,
increasing LB mod.
but for
Yeah, but
breakers
for
only. So
breakers
yeah.
only. So usually anyone with the breaker tag
So I
isn't.
guess like this would be good for Tulian if you're kind of using Tulian to do some damage too.
Yeah, well, he's still fairly low on the damage, and I think later in story he actually gets his own like story equipment that gives him a Grandis with LB mod boost.
Oh, okay,
So
okay, all right, all
yeah,
right.
and possibly even a chess piece with 500 flat attacks, so which
Oh,
would
okay,
compete for the slot. So probably
yeah.
not, but maybe if we get like an actual primary damage dealer that has the breaker tag on the side, maybe it'd be good for them.
Well,
But
Lara does, but you're probably equipping something else on Lara.
yeah, and then again, if they also have the physical attacker tag, you can just use Divus as SDMR.
Exactly.
But I guess this doesn't take up a materia slot, but it is instead competing with the Clash robe.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of
I
moot.
mean, yeah, but it's not bad. I mean, it's an alternative. I like that. It's kind of you could actually see use. So that's not a bad point. That's not a bad point. But yeah, let's move on. Really, not much more to say there.
Yeah,
Because we actually have a free unit that, as I understand it, is hard to use, but surprisingly decent.
yeah, and I think he's a good meme. I,
Good meme,
we
okay?
have we have Golden Rizer, who is obviously a new form of our favorite 1 to 2 star unit.
Mm,
His base defense spirited magic are comically low, and HP is like 2/3 of normal as well, but his attack is still alright, sort of NVA levels.
right.
But he has a fairly interesting mechanic of how he wants to attack, because at first glance he has the usual NV, basic chain skill, one use Grandis buff, SLB, but his SLB is like only a 200 mod. It buffs the team a bit, but it does kill him, so you don't really want
Yeah,
to use it.
exactly.
Instead, what you've got is his store ability, which can be used up to 4 times, does a 99% defense break to himself, but gives him 11,000% attack buff per
Yeah.
cast, so up to 44,000% attack, that only will apply to a basic attack, which he
That's
has no upgrade
hilarious.
for.
Yeah. So basically, you use this 4 turns in a row,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just tap him for a
Yeah,
basic
he is
attack
a basic attack.
for actually decent damage, right?
Yep, yep. It's pretty high tier, to be honest, if you like properly set it up. Because the interesting thing with this is because his attack buff is so dramatically high, he gets like several 100,000 total attack. His equipment kind of doesn't matter in terms of flat attack on it, because it's just a drop in a bucket compared to this massively multiplied base attack.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
hilarious.
The one thing that the attack really does matter on is the base attack of his vision card. So you want a really high base attack VC, like one of the physical premium ones with 125.
Right,
But
right,
other
yeah.
than that, you can get all utility. And what the main utility you want is, well, the normal way to use them is probably having quadcast basic attack with like dual wielding and Aurora Scarf or anything else that makes you attack twice, so you can get 4 attacks. And the other gear that we have
Wait, but
probably,
does that work?
yep, it applies to all 4, or at least it
Oh,
should. It does in
okay.
JP. And the
Because
other
the
type
same
of gear
effects
that,
for magic only apply for like the first magic's ability you cast in a triple
yeah,
cast, for instance.
when you're multicasting abilities, it only applies to the first one. But for the just dual wield multiplied basic attack, it should apply to all of them.
Okay, so basically what you're doing when you're wielding it 4 times is that you get this 4x modifier on
Yeah,
this ability.
a whole
Okay.
4.
Yeah,
But the
but
other
given the attack, right?
yeah, the other type of gear that is probably the first time in the whole game has been relevant is you want critical hit boosting gear, because it's an unmodified basic attack. It can crit,
Right,
and
right.
that's an additional 1.5 times damage when it does that. So up to a 6 modifier. I think crit boost caps at 70% chance though, so
But what do we have that gives crit boost?
a bunch of really old like event gear and stuff, and like
Okay.
Pause TMR, who's a 4-star.
But that's ridiculous because, like, I'm also looking at it. So, just to give, listeners a feel for the damage. So, wiki params, right? But Rizer,
Yeah,
by your calcs, does 10 trillion, 10 point, so almost 11 trillion damage, right? On his burst turn. So, let's compare that to Graph, who does 11.7. Very close. That's like scarily close.
like that's still a pretty rough count. Now I don't know exactly how accurate that'll be and like how high the crit rate can reasonably get, but yeah, it's like pretty up there. Won't whale scale quite as much because I think, from what I remember at least, the basic attack will not take any amps. It doesn't isn't affected by
Oh, that's a shame.
one sort of lacking source, but it does also make him quite easy to element switch because you can just give him an elemental weapon in one hand
True.
because the base attack doesn't matter.
Exactly, as long as you have an imperil for it. So like then the imperil matters more. You really want one of those big imperils.
Imperil matters, and I'm pretty sure weapon imperils do work as well. So
Right. And he actually can equip several weapons. I was just there. Yeah, exactly. Swords and great swords. So you still have some options, although like swords, only irrelevant units break swords, unfortunately.
but also,
Uh,
as long as you're capping killers, he can afford to use a materia slot on an equip X materia.
oh, nice, nice.
Like even if you're not capping, like reaching 400% base attack as normal, that kind of doesn't matter that much.
Right.
And it also makes, like, the gearing not mattering makes him, like, weirdly viable as a budget option.
Right.
Easy free, but if your gears shit, you can still do a lot with him, as long as you can set him up properly for 4 turns.
Okay. Well, interesting unit. Interesting. As you said, a meme. Maybe you won't be using this that much, but still, there's something to be said about a unit that literally takes no gear to be super strong, and like it's only 4 turns of storing. Really, yes, the unit can't do anything else while storing, but still.
Yeah, and now one thing with the quadcast option is that his frames are like quite slow. It takes a long time for him to do those 4 hits, so you might not be able to completely cap it. But another option is like the TDH option and just hitting twice, but with 1.5 variance, that still gets you 3 out of 4 effective modifier.
Yeah.
Much more easily cappable.
Right. Good point. Good point.
And like I think there's an old event weapon called Silver Rifle that's good for that build because it's a gun with 70% crit boost, so that kind of
Oh,
in one slot and gives you the variance.
nice. I mean, this unit sounds fun, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, and there's more because this is the normal way to use him from JP. But when I first saw this kit, I had an idea, and that idea is to use a specific ability on Bulwark, which makes your whole team counter with 15 times modifiers attacks. And this, in theory, should work with Rizer's basic attack.
Wait, so what you would do is you would store, and then he would hit for 15x, but only once, right?
Yes, on the counter phase. But that can be 15x with TDH variance and maybe still crit. I don't think we've actually tested yet whether crit works on counters.
Interesting.
But yeah, that's potentially like 22, so that's like 4 times as strong as his.
That's actually stupid strong. I mean, you'd still have to get it on a counter, right? So he'd have to get hit in some way, or Mirage a hit. But yeah.
Bulwark's thing makes all units counter hits from any unit on the team. So even if just your tank gets hit, the whole team.
Oh, okay.
Things like people accidentally making their skies jump.
Right. Very interesting, actually. That should be tested. You need to report back next week if you tried it.
Yeah, we've been, like, me and Sice have been kind of theory crafting this for a while because there are a bunch of other hoops to consider, and the first is a chain, because obviously by default you're not capping a chain when you counter.
Yeah, of course.
So if you bring I don't remember who, but if you bring like a couple other units that have specific basic attack frames and load them up with like a ton of elemental, like multi-element weapons, they can attack first, build a chain in like 2 hits.
Can't you just bring one of the chainer counterers, like Eldrin?
Slow. They're too slow.
Oh, okay. Shame.
You have to find ones with really short startup times on their basic attack.
Wow.
Yeah, a bunch of elements. You probably also want to give Rizer some materials that do that base chain mod increase that makes the chain like start from +2 or whatever.
Oh, right. Yeah, Tifa materia, for instance. Exactly. Yeah.
With a bunch more hoops, you can get him to cap a chain potentially.
Wow. I'd love to see a video of this, of him doing 4 times Graf's damage. That would be hilarious.
Because if you want to do this in like scoring content, because it's counter phase, he has to be effectively your only damage dealer.
Why?
Because, like, obviously it counts in 1 turn, and this is going to be your kill turn, so it can't be counted on the
Oh, yeah.
regular attackers.
Yeah, you said it as if he has to be your only damage dealer. No, but he effectively is your only damage dealer. Yeah, exactly.
He like, because of the turn counting, like, no one else can actually contribute to score meaningfully on the turn he does.
Yeah, because it doesn't count as, it counts as on the new turn, meaning that, well, I mean, if you kill the boss, you kill the boss. Although if you're lucky and his attack doesn't kill the boss, you can still burst on that turn, right?
I think it would still not count as the same turn for scoring, because counters like its own phase on your turn, it's not that same.
Ah, okay, okay. Shame. Would have to need testing at least.
Yeah, it's definitely like currently still just theory, but like if everything goes perfectly, it might actually be able to like compete with a team of regular damage dealers.
That's hilarious. Honestly, that is hilarious.
Yeah, this is why I think he's a great meme and kind of love him.
And requires no gear. I mean, this still requires like very little gear. You do like equip gun, you put a Sparky on him, you make sure you have Louise in the party, or you do equip instrument and bulwark, and then you like
Be there anyway.
you don't need anything else. This is hilarious.
It's like it still needs a lot of very specific things, but it's not the usual like high tier expensive thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is a unit that doesn't have the whale scaling. Like, as long as you have the units, you won't need like you don't need 5 STMRs of a specific NV unit, etc., etc. This is kind of like the poor man's clear. Like, Sinzar needs to do a couple of clears with this strat.
So I love him for this and really hope it works, especially as like it was my idea, but
Yeah, let's see.
I will forcibly claim credit for all clears done this way.
And that's fine. That's just how I claimed credit for Clash of Wills. It works. You can just do that. You can just say, "Hey, this is mine now," just like I did. So it's perfect. Okay, but this is funny. You're gonna have to come back to us next week and tell us how it went. If you actually,
Fine. I'll see if I have the necessary gear and find something to try it on.
yeah.
Unfortunately, there seems to be no way either in game or even like on FFB equip currently to actually search for all the crit gear.
Oh shit.
It's a bit awkward to find right now.
Well, I guess like you could use the wiki and try like a quote search, and
Point is, it's annoying though.
yeah, no, no, absolutely.
But yeah, there are ways you can like go through the data dump directly if you really want. But I think,
Yeah.
but didn't write it down.
Ugh. But all right, nice meme unit, nice meme unit. Okay, so what else do we have this week? Oh, we have a really big thing. We have a thing that I am super happy about, which is the variance update that we got.
The big variance update that improved all physical units on the release of a big premium mage.
Yeah, except Graph, who was actually now, yeah, as I understand it, he's actually now falling a bit behind. Not much, but a bit behind the premium damage dealers because so what this so just to expand on the problem a bit. So before, what we used to do is we used to have specific weapons we always wanted to equip. We would force equip, like guns, for instance, because guns have really good variance. They have an average variance that's higher than most other weapons. Um,
1.5 average variant.
yeah,
Festembo very much had a sort of supremacy.
yes, and you would even use equip gun on units to make sure that they could equip these weapons in order to get that. And what's nice now is that all two-handed weapons, as I understand it, now have the 1.5 average variance.
Not quite. One weapons that previously had 1.3 now have 1.5 average. Weapons that previously had 1.5 average now have 1.55 average. So they're still a bit better, but the gap
Right.
is much smaller.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you.
Bows that now have 1.6 average.
Yes, I mean, for now, like now, for instance, you would not be using Black Sparky on Sky anymore. There's literally no reason for it. What you'd be using is you'd be using Kane Spear now, and just shit on everything.
Yeah, because spears actually went from 1.25 to 1.5, which
Yeah. So so that's really good. Like very rarely, like, I mean, Lara, obviously she's gonna use a gun because she can use guns, so you don't have to force anything on her. But uh, and there are a ton of other units that got hurt by this. Well, none of like there are not too many super relevant ones, but like Tyvus is. He used a greatsword, and now he actually has good variance. Sephiroth with the katana, and Auron. So basically, they're all getting a bit of buffs, and Graf is not because, of course, there's no variance for being unarmed. Um,
the dual, the rare dual wielders do also get a similar size buff because all one-handed variants went from 1.0 to 1.15 average.
Yeah. So a slight boost.
Yeah. Well, basically, dual wielders and 1.3 variants both got a 15% boost.
Yeah.
That were already using a 1.5 variants weapon.
Yeah. So it's kind of like this. Might make Tifa more attractive to build TDW in the cases where you can't really cap killers. So you might want to actually go TDW Tifa now because of, well, I mean, there were times you would want to build TDW Tifa even before, but now it doesn't hurt as much to do it.
Yeah, it'll be a bit more common.
Yeah.
Well, Mages all lost a bit of ground because of this.
Exactly. But that is getting fixed in the future. Well, not the Xenogear units, but mages will get variants. Xenogear's units, unfortunately not, but that's just what it is. So, but Dream, this did something weird with DV, right? That you were talking about before.
Right. I think just quickly before that, this variance patch also involves the removal of the log formula, so meaning that was sort of the damage adjustment based on your weapon attack. So that's been removed now, which means low attack weapons don't get.
You mean what you actually mean is the nerf to fixed dice is gone because fixed dice is fixed.
Yeah, the old fixed dice is now sets are in the universal one is just kind of bad now.
Yeah, exactly.
The old nerf to fixed dice is good.
So what happened to DV though? Why do we need to rerun it?
Well, the last stages you want to rerun because most of your units now do more damage, so that's one thing. But the other change to DV was that they changed the damage taken score parameter, so you can now take up to 5,000 damage total without getting any score penalty.
Right.
Nice if you're a bit lazy on resist gearing and stuff. But what this also seems to have had the consequence for now is it increased the max score for that kind of parameter from 10k to 20k. So if you already did and capped your easy stages, you now have to do them all again because the perfect score for them increased by 10k.
Yay! This is gonna be so much fun. Well, at least the teams are saved. That's good because like my teams are already saved, so it is a pretty quick rerun. But still, it's a hassle to do. But yeah, good tip though.
A chance it's a bug, but I don't know.
Yeah, but I doubt they're gonna fix because it seems very hard to fix. Because or I mean, you know, well, I guess retroactively they could just reduce 10,000 score from everyone, but they'd have to, but it's such a hassle because they'd have to double check if they did perfect score or not. And so I doubt, I doubt they're going to do that effort. I doubt it.
We'll see. But
yeah,
you might want to hold off a day or two or something.
Yeah. Well,
it's not a ton of it.
Yeah, you're like the only thing you're losing is your time. And let's face it, we're fucking playing a gacha here, all of us. We have time on our hands, all right? That's why we're all sitting here abusing ourselves. Okay. So, well, some people get turned on by abusing themselves.
Oh, yeah, let's not go there.
Sure. Be a prude. That's okay. You have no respect for other people's kinks. You know that? There are like kinks are healthy. Some people have kinks, and it's okay. You know what, listener? If you're listening to this and you feel offended by the way Dream just, spoke about your specific kink, whether it is smelling feet or something else, you're fine. You're good. Keep smelling those toes. It's okay.
Finished digging your hole yet?
Yeah. I'm done. We can move on. So one huge thing happened this week, right? We finally got a use for those mystery crystals we've been gathering
for like 6 months at least.
Right. So what do they do?
They have two functions, or two things that they can be exchanged for, rather. One is these Emperor Cactuars, which will increase the level cap of an NV unit by 1 each, up to a maximum of 130.
Yay!
Pretty expensive for 10 crystals for one unit.
Exactly. Like it's not like you're gonna be maxing everyone, and it's a bit interesting because like technically, well, right now you can only do a single one because that's the amount of crystals we have.
10 crystals total.
Yeah. So that's one unit. So you need to spend that wisely. You need to select a unit that you think is worth it. But there is a way to revert it, right? There is an eraser cactuar that can give you back all of your king cactuars that or whatever they're called.
But for now, we only have one eraser cactuar available, I think, and
Right.
that will be consumed. So you can only do one reset right now.
Exactly. So right now, like what you can do is, for instance, if you have Esther, she's a pretty safe bet. She does a lot of damage. So you could do her to 130, and then erase once a better unit comes along. But I think that we should be, well, as it is right now, we don't know how many erasers we're going to get in the future, but right now it feels like we should be pretty stingy and smart with this choice. I mean, I'm sure if Muspel was here,
Scarce.
yeah, and I'm sure if Muspel was here, he would advocate you putting that shit on a tank, but don't. Like, that's just dumb.
Also, like, tanks like actually get less of a boost from it because the two things you get from this increase to 130 is, first of all, there's part of the damage calculation is a level correction, so like a modifier based on your level. So increasing from 120 to 130 gives you 4.5% more damage, and that side of things would do nothing for a tank.
Exactly. But you do get more stats, though.
Yeah, the other side of it that affects everyone who actually cares about their stats at least, so goodbye supports. But they also get 10% extra of their EX0 base stats added onto their base stats.
Right. So what you're saying is we should plus 10 Rizer, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, well, he does get like a slightly bigger damage boost than other units.
Right? Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But be careful with who you select, or you know what, or don't select your favorite unit, okay? Because it doesn't really matter that much. So select your favorite unit. Okay, but aside from this is a pretty cool thing, and as I understand it, so what you do is you use the mystery crystals to buy the cactuars, which makes no sense to me. Why just not let them be the cactuars to begin with? But whatever. You use mystery crystals to buy cactuars.
It's because it's like item versus unit, and sort of the way to apply them to units is fusing them in, which you can't really do.
Yeah, but they could have been units to begin with. But sure, I digress. Fine. Um, but we did get something else. That's a bit disappointing. So, well, both, I guess. So I'm talking about the Mastercard. I love that joke. So somebody, I just need to explain why we laughed because somebody on the Discord made this joke. He was like, "Oh, they're really geared." Like we were talking about the Mastercard, and he said like, "Oh, they're really gearing the game to whales." And I was sitting there, I'm like, "What does he mean?" And other people found the joke funny, and I'm like, "Why am I so stupid? Why don't I get the joke?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's the Mastercard, as in the credit card." Yeah, that was funny. I thought it was funny. It's the strongest card in FFBE, easily.
Loses a bit of emphasis when we explain it.
Yeah, it does. But it's funny. So yeah, what the Mastercard does is, so this can also be purchased for one mystery crystal, right? But it's one you only need to buy one, and what it does, it allows you to equip VCs on 7-star units. And you might be thinking, oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's like you apply the Mastercard to a 7-star unit, and it then unlocks its VC slot.
Yeah, exactly. You can only do it for one unit at a time, but you can use it as many times as you want.
Yeah.
Um,
You can not quite. You can buy multiple Mastercards and use one.
oh, you can. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just a one per unit thing, and then you can spend 500 lapis to kind of get it back out of a unit and
Yeah.
again. But
So this would be a bit more interesting if we actually got one piece of the content we're actually lacking. So, Dream, explain how this whole unique abilities thing worked in JP.
So on JP, all of the like free vision cards, the ones that aren't tied to a specific unit and are just in the random summon pool, a bunch of them got a special like fourth passive ability that only applies to 7-star units, and a lot of these were quite powerful. There was ones that do like instant LB at the start of battle is nice for some of the support ones like Steiner. There were a bunch that gave generic like all ability mod boosts to either physical or magic abilities, and that had some niche uses on certain units that like could multiply that boost a lot of times, like old 7-star Vivi.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so there were some fairly impactful 7-star exclusive
Yeah, and that's a shame because I feel like just being able to put a VC on a 7-star doesn't feel that useful, honestly.
mostly not amazing.
Yeah,
Those 7-star exclusive abilities yeah, have been cut for global.
yeah. Should we even advise people to buy a Mastercard? Because, like, I feel,
Probably not. There is not really any use for them now.
yeah. It's like I'm trying to think of any combo where, like, oh, yeah, but if you put this card on this unit, but really, no. Like, I can't, because most VCs are about damage, and, like, and those that aren't are still about stats, and that's where 7 stars fall short anyway, so.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of like their potential use even with these abilities has also been taken away by the fact that just most of our 7-star upgrades from JP
Oh yeah,
well over time.
that too, yeah,
Even if we did have them, the uses would be pretty limited, like it would just be like
yeah,
Steiner and stuff, but
yeah. So for now,
there would actually be a few.
yeah, so for now, I would just advise not getting it, but maybe saving one mystery crystal because the like difference between having your Esther 129 and 130 isn't huge, and you could save one just in case something absolutely broken comes by. Who knows? But we are getting more mystery crystals, I guess, as time moves on. So yeah. But yeah, so this was a very eventful week. Like a lot of stuff happened. We got the new alternate dimension storyline. We got our first good mage in a long while. We got the variance update, and we got the mystery crystals for leveling your units to 130. That is a lot of stuff in one week. Oh shit! You know what we forgot to mention, Dream?
Well,
We forgot to mention the huge quality of life for seeing like debuffs on a boss in fights.
oh yeah, that's a thing.
That's really good actually. So now when you're in a unit's menu selecting abilities, what happens is you get this super nice, although it's very different from all the other user interface. So it kind of like looks out of place, but it's still you get this super nice pop-up that actually in detail describes what percentage of your imperil the boss has right now, what percentage of break the boss has. This is so good. No more guesswork, right? Like oh my god.
I mean, what I don't get is why these numbers weren't just added to like the active buff list when you long tap like several years ago. But
Agreed, but it looks much better now. Like I think that, I mean, if they added it to the long buff list, that's sucky because first of all you have to long buff and you don't see it as you're like this is nice because it gives you this information as you're selecting abilities. So I actually like where it is. It's actually quite well placed. But yeah, it's just a shame that it took this long.
yeah, and it's also only for like stuff that you're caring about with like offensive stuff. Like it doesn't show any. You can't see through it like the percentage on attack and magic break the boss currently has, or like their mitigation percent.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like if you wanna hurt it, those are the stats you see.
Yeah, it shows you like your effective killer, your effective imperil, your effective defense.
Yeah. Super nice. Like no longer, long tapping a unit and go like, wait, did my Ling killers wear off or not? Like, let me double check. Now you just, swipe Lara to the right and you just bam. Oh, look, yeah, she has 160 extra killers. Excellent. So that's nice. I like it. It should be mentioned. I like quality of life upgrades.
We all do.
Yeah. And I guess like this goes hand in hand, just mentioning that JP has revealed that they're doing this big remake of the UI overall, like overhaul of the entire UI. That looks interesting as well.
I don't know if it's absolutely everything, but certainly the home screen is improving a ton, and like the interface for enhancing units is improving a ton.
Yeah, looks really good. Looks really good. Modernizing FFB, I like that because I kind of get this feeling that at least they're probably betting a bit more on the game than just 6 more months.
And hopefully that's something we will actually get in reasonable time, because UI updates, at least in more recent years, have been a slightly weird thing between versions,
Yeah,
with like the stat screen and stuff that we never got.
but it's not connected to any unit upgrades. I think the chance is good we're actually getting it.
Hopefully.
Yeah. That was a bit of a passive aggressive joke. I hope people got that. Because like we're still not getting units and upgrades. So yeah. I hope
Explaining all your jokes this week.
yeah, I feel like I need to because, I am a pretty smart person and our listeners are pretty dumb. So I feel like I need to explain the jokes that I, of course, being so smart, instinctively and immediately get. But they might not. So, like, I like to, when you're smart, you have to.
Of course.
Sorry?
Right, of course.
Yeah. All right, all right. I think we have exhausted the content for this week, even though this has been a pretty long episode, actually.
It's like, the joke here was that Varus is actually not smart.
Thank you, Dream. Thank you. There we go. Now you're calling the listeners dumb. How the tables have turned.
Wait,
Whatever.
who said anything about the listeners?
Well, I mean, I implied they were dumb, and I had to explain jokes, and then you went ahead and explained the joke, which kind of, in like by proxy makes you say they're dumb at least, right?
See, because you're dumb, you didn't understand my joke explanation.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, wait, what? No, did you just call me dumb?
This is just spiral.
It is. It is. All right. All right. Thanks everyone for listening this week. I guess. No. I mean, no. Definitely thanks. Oh my God. I mean, thank you for listening. I meant, I guess, as in, I guess we're done, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We just got the episode. It just ended.